My personal experience with Five Finger Death Punch is that uh, I believe that Pandora thinks that's what all metal sounds like. Is that they're like, yo, you like metal? Five Finger Death Punch. And unfortunately, also a lot of humans, because I feel like a lot of people I meet, if they're like, oh, you're into metal? You know what I really like? And they're like, yo, you gotta check. It's like, it's never just like a, oh, do you like Five Finger Death Punch? No, it's always like, you know who you gotta check out. You know, I heard, like, I don't listen to a lot of metal, but I heard this one metal band, and they were amazing. And they're called Five Finger Death Punch. I was like, is it Five Finger Death Punch? Is
Well,
it that you're about to mention?
they're in that like Pantera zone,
Yes.
right? The difference being, for some reason, people who like good metal also like Pantera.
Yeah.
Whereas it seems like you have to exclusively like bullshit music to be in Five Finger Death Punch. I'm not really sure. I feel like Five Finger Death Punch are in that same flyover rock space that Stem are,
Yes.
right? Like, but the difference is Stem, like they didn't really get big beyond the UFC theme song, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Five Finger Death Punch has done a very good job of cultivating their like military thing.
So let's get into this garbage. So one of the examples of people bringing up Five Finger Death Punch is my old trainer. When I told him I was into like metal, because they were like, "Oh, what do you do? Like, I'm a musician. Like, you know, what kind of stuff do you do?" And I'll be like, "Oh, I do some metal stuff, or whatever." And he was like, "Oh yeah, you know, Five Finger Death Punch." I'm like, "Oh, great." And then while we were working out, he put on his speaker thing and put on Pandora, and he asked me what band to put in.
Yeah.
And one time I put in Mercenary.
Yeah, we got to talk about Pandora.
And one time I put in Nevermore, and those were both pretty good, as long as they kind of, you know, they would get a few things, you know, right, like
Yeah.
Megadeth and shit. But then, without fail, Five Finger Death Punch would come on at some point. And I'm pretty sure my trainer did not recognize any of the. He wasn't like, oh, hey, that's a Five Finger Death Punch, because he didn't actually like listen to Five Finger Death Punch, right? He just like knew of them as a metal band that existed, that he didn't mind, you know, if he was to hear them.
No, Pandora is so bizarrely terrible.
Yes.
So I actually met the founder of Pandora. What year is it? This is 2017.
2017.
I met him in like 2006, so like over 10 years ago. And the way that they were running Pandora was like the worst way possible. It's like they had humans would listen to music and then
Yeah.
write down the features, right? And so the biggest problem with Pandora. So this was actually also when it didn't have any classical music. Okay, so it's one of those deals where there, amongst the list of features, there was not whether or not it was good, right?
Right.
So it was just like this song also uses odd time signatures and a minor key. It's like right, but it's terrible. I don't want to listen to it.
Yeah.
But the thing about Pandora now, right? Because I mean, since the beginning, I was like, this is terrible. It doesn't work. It doesn't play what you ask for. It plays things that have this similar aesthetics, irrespective as to whether or not they're good. So I never used it. And then like this past summer, I was on Pandora, and they have like a whole, you know, you can say like rock, and then you can say metal, right? And it gets increasingly more specific. And they have these like weird, it might as well be like Brooklyn hipster metal. Like that might, like they don't have the metals that everyone expects. It's not like death metal, black metal, thrash metal, power metal, right? It's like, they don't have vest metal, but they practically do. I forget what it was, because it was like stuff. I was like, what is this? I've never heard of this. And then they had this one. It was like female fronted metal, and I was like, I'm not really sure that that's like, because when you listen to Arch Enemy, you're not like, this is definitely like a woman. Like, I don't understand what that's supposed to be. So, but the thing was like, they had all this like stoner doom metal that was just fucking garbage.
Oh yeah.
And it was just like, what is this? So Pandora is terrible.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised because again, they don't play the thing you asked for. They play things that are close. right? If people who are on like the labels have
they start with the thing you ask for usually. Like usually they'll be like
they stray. It's a
and,
random
yeah, and then
walk.
they'll be like, what? Okay, so you like Nevermore? Here's a Nevermore song. Cool. Okay, how about Megadeth? Yeah, that's cool. Right. Maybe back to Nevermore. All right, cool. Five Finger Death Punch. What the fuck? And then like a live Nevermore track with like a minute and a half of Worrell doing some drawn out acapella intro, which is not cool when you're like doing crunches at the gym, and that comes you're like, and then it's just Worrell like. You're like, what the fuck? Like, is there a skip button? Like,
right?
Can you skip? This is not cool right now. But yeah, yeah.
Well, no. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have a thing where you can pay for play like anything in this orbit, like insert us, right?
Yeah. Well, I know they have weird specific, like. When you sign up for digital distribution services, Pandora is one of the services where they're like, we can't guarantee you'll get on this, but we'll submit you. And because they take submissions, but like
because a human has to listen to it and write down the features,
right, and because yeah, exactly, and they need to cater it.
I wouldn't be surprised if they never learned how to do the machine learning to categorize that for them, and they still have an army of humans writing things down.
It explains why. Well, even if they did, like they replaced it with a shitty algorithm. Like I read a thing about how they do the criteria, and I think it's at least partially automated now, but it sounded like, but the main thing was it did sound like it was not fine enough gradation of qualities. So basically, Chugga Chugga equals Nevermore equals Five Finger Death Punch. Exactly what you would think. That was what I was thinking when things would come on. I'd be like, it's literally like somebody was like, does it go? Yes. Okay. Write that down. Oh, what do we call it? Okay.
Well, here's the other thing. This is relevant to the episode and everything. So in my mind, there's bands, right, that people who don't normally listen to metal, like, don't understand why it's not heavy metal, right?
Right.
Like Five Finger Death Punch, Rammstein is a really good example. Like, and the thing is, to me, it's always the vocal production.
Yeah.
Right? Because on this stuff, the vocals are produced to the point where it's like, you're like, no one sounds like that. Right? Yeah. But when you listen to heavy metal, it's like, that's that dude's voice. Right? And it's like this weird delineating factor that I wouldn't be surprised if the people writing stuff down for Pandora also don't understand this. But that's literally, I feel like that's the number one thing where you're like, no, like this is actually metal and this is like radio metal, right? It's like it's always the vocal production.
And I mean it carries over to the rest of the production too, like we talked about. I mean,
well, yeah, but a lot of times it's just the production on metal albums is just because it's bad.
Right. Well, the point is, it's like it's all like radio rock, radio metal is always produced to the point of like this turd is polished. Like
no, the guitar tone is also there's a very specific,
right. It's why like all these dudes like it's like the standard approach of like it's maybe different now, but it used to always be like get a rectifier or whatever, and then like the thing was it wasn't so much that the amp sounded that great, it was that they like the way they mic'd it and then they EQ the fuck, take all the
it's super EQ.
That's why I could never get down with it, because I was like, can you just like take out those frequencies in the amp so I can have it sound good before you like doctor it and shit. So so you get this same like everything is compressed like brick walled, and then on top of that you get like the drums are always like kicks are always triggered. I don't know why dudes in half these bands bother to have a kick drum anymore. It's like for show
or a drummer.
Right.
No,
true.
Seriously,
right. It's really because it's quantized
and then it's
and sound replaced.
So
basically, like, thanks for the effort, but you really could have just stayed home.
There was a band like a year ago, some metal band. I'm not going to name any name. I'm not going to name the band. I'm not going to name who told me the story.
Okay.
Because I don't think it's supposed to. But basically these guys, part of their thing was, so they were a new band, and part of their thing was they were like, we're going to use actual drums on the album. We're not going to like replace the drums. And basically everyone, because again they weren't an established band. Everyone, like, this was the first time people were hearing this band, and everyone's response was, why do the drums sound like that? It was basically universally panned. It's like, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have used actual drums. Right. Right. So it's to the point where it's like, well, why do you have a drummer? right?
Right, well-
Unless the answer is for most of these bands, they're still writing in terms of like everyone just play, like basically everyone writes their part. Right, because no one is
Right.
educated to the point of being able to write other people's parts.
Yeah.
And so they need the drummer to write the drummer's part. But that's it. Like,
Yeah.